It is UFC 270 fight week, and the podcast episodes rolled along. I guess unfortunately, we'll see if she just calls me out right away. The amount of episodes this week caught up to me, so a little late to the party on UFC 270. We did say that we were going to do this, so I'm actually happy. We're just a little late, but we said we were going to do a preview show for every pay-per-view. One for one, we are here, or some of us are tired and just woke up or a little late, but we are here. You know her because she is always on the show. She's the one and only Kelly Murphy with some ring lighting. I love it. How are you?
I'm good. I've upped the game, and you did oversleep a dot, but in all fairness, we were supposed to record this yesterday, and I pushed it to today because I had meetings yesterday. So we're one for one, but we're here.
Yeah, I mean, I could have prepared better. I could have, gone to sleep earlier. I could have not, I could have this bang energy drink. So here's the thing. I'm going to take this now to be awake for you. Now I'm going to be up to 4 o'clock in the morning. It's just how
what a guy.
Works.
You're always looking to compromise for me. I love that.
Literally, that's how it works. All right. So first and foremost, as I always start off, how has the year started off since the last time we spoke?
Busy. Literally this week especially, I feel like it hit me the most. I was working on Throwing Down with Renee Paquette and Misha Tate, obviously, on Monday, and just so much goes into that show. So I feel like I've kind of been playing catch up all week to make sure everything that I want done for that show has been done every day, on top of my day-to-day duties, on top of other things that I am now doing. So
we had our first UFC event last week of the year. The floor is yours if you would like to say anything before we start talking about it.
I would actually.
Okay.
I'm just going to expose you. I have to.
It's fine.
Watch the main event. What, yesterday?
Yeah, and we're recording this on Thursday. So yeah, I watched
Wednesday.
Okay. I don't want to throw my business out there, but I was out for the beginning of the card. And then I was not out for
out for the end of the card.
Right. And so I didn't want to be can we watch this? I got a podcast with Kelly Murphy to do this week. Can we do this?
She's gonna roast me.
Yeah. And I very weird, but I would expose myself to the greatest lengths here. I even was my best friend, I gotta watch this main event for my best friend. It was on in a place that I couldn't watch it or hear it. And so I messed up, but I did watch it. Calvin Kattar defeated Giga Chikadze, unanimous decision. And honestly, not just in the way that he beat him, but in the way of the process of beating him. He beat a striker at his own game. I mean, the first round was a little bit of a wrestling match, but after that, it was all Calvin Kattar. And to do what he did nearly a year to the day of his last fight against Max Holloway, when Max Holloway did to him what he did to Chikadze, it just kind of changed really the entire narrative of the career of Calvin Kattar. And obviously, I'm sure you were very happy with that.
No, I was. Honestly, a lot of people were looking right past him going into this fight. They were like, Giga wins this weekend. He's very much next in line for that title shot with how dominant he's been. And, Giga himself was looking past Kattar. He threw his name in the hat for that title shot. And Calvin even said post-fight, you had me right in front of you when you were talking about a title shot. So we kind of looked past him. And I loved Kattar's game plan. He really kept Giga on his back foot. He kept pressuring and pressuring and pressuring. And a kicker like Giga, needs the space to set up the kick. And Calvin took that away from him, which I thought was great. Honestly, he just got better as the rounds went on. I placed my first legal sports bet. I did a little bit of a parlay, and Calvin Kattar was the underdog that I picked. So I cashed out on it. I'm very happy about it. And I'm super impressed with him. And I'm glad that he answered a lot of questions. Because I think going into it, a lot of people wondered if he was going to be that same fighter or if he was going to be, more reluctant to throw after what happened with Max. So I'm glad that he answered a lot of those questions.
Two things there. One, look at you with the technical breakdown. I do think from a technical standpoint, exactly what you said, Calvin Kattar closing that distance, forcing Giga on his back foot, not allowing him any space. That's just beautiful in its own right. Secondly, about you placing your first legal sports bet, because New York finally allows sports betting. it is a law that you are not allowed to bet Justin Gaethje every single fight, right? Like it actually, you cannot do it, right? Like you actually have to you can't do it. It's the Kelly Murphy law.
It's written in there in the fine print that I just can't do it. It's not allowed to be done. I'm glad it wasn't a thing for UFC 268 because I would have
if there's any lines that come in the future and he's an underdog, you're gonna change the entire line. You're just gonna put so many bets on Justin. He'll be a plus 150. You'll wake up, he'll be a minus 110. Okay, so you obviously know the sport and you obviously know having worked with the people that you work with, you know betting lines, but how comfortable are you when placing bets now? The line maneuvers and stuff like that.
I mean, I wouldn't say I'm an expert by any means. When the fight night last weekend hit, I had put money on Brandon Royval, Caleb Chookagian. Yeah, of course. And Calvin Kattar. It was my 3-fighter parlay. I don't really know how it works, but I was like, listen, I think the 3 of these people are going to win. And they did. So I just knew Calvin Kattar was the underdog. I, at the very least, know what that means. So that's kind of what I ran with.
Yeah, I would just say, don't get so emotionally attached with, oh, this guy's the underdog. Done. Absolutely done. I hit late last year, I had a 6-fight parlay, which is but I did a lot of favorites and 2 underdogs. And I'm not anywhere near a good gambler. Anyone that knows me knows the joke is I'll get a basketball day with 10 games and I'll throw $1 on 5 games. If I throw $1 on 5 games and I win 20, 30 bucks, I win 20, 30 bucks. Yeah. Right. I place bets in the hopes of can this $1 pay for my bar tab this weekend?
I love that.
Yeah. Honestly. So, and if it does, it does. And if it doesn't, I just threw $1 on it. So when I'm at a 6-fight parlay and I hit 4 of them, I'm I should just cash out. But then you're no, we're here.
Right. You get greedy.
Yeah, you get so greedy. And then you start especially with football for me. We've already talked about my Aaron Rodgers blown bet. And you start to hate people in your own family, hate people in players or fighters' families. I try to not bet fights simply because, as you know, and you know a lot of fighters, I know a lot of fighters, you don't ever want to change the narrative while you're actually supposed to be there watching it.
Right.
I no matter what, but if you're the last hit of my parlay and I lose, I'm gonna be
well, that's the thing. Last weekend, my buddy texted me and was he did a 6-fight parlay, the whole main card. And I was listen, I love all of your picks except the main event. He had picked Giga. And I was and he was well, of course you don't like that pick. You love Calvin Kattar. And I was oh, yes, okay, we all know that. But I do think a lot of people are overlooking Calvin Kattar in this fight. He hit every single fight until the main event. He would have won $1,000 and didn't win it. And I was you know what? As much as I want to feel bad for you, I told you I didn't like your main event pick. And I just cashed out on this because Calvin Kattar won. So we're in a bad spot here. We shouldn't have watched these fights together, clearly.
Yeah, no, it can get bad. It can definitely get bad for sure. But congrats to you on your W. Also, I guess obviously Raw Dog kind of stole the spotlight this weekend, mainly because of his nickname. Great performance there. I did find it a little weird talking about he may be a replacement fighter for this weekend's co-main event, and we'll get into that. I would just say I don't know if it was because we hadn't had fights in a month, but we're getting all these narratives, and it's everything needs to be rushed to start 2022. Brandon Royval, I do believe you'll be in the title picture this year, and let's just let it happen. You know what I mean? Everything needs to Giga Chikadze was gonna jump the line and face out. Let's just let things play out before we just start filling in the blanks here. It's just.
No, I completely agree with you. The only thing with the Royval situation is that I think there's always a bit of a concern with Figgy making weight, which is why it may have been thrown out there. Had it been a title fight where, both guys are solid, no weight problems ever in the past, I don't think that would have been a situation, but just because Figgy's had the problems in the past, I think that might have been why. But I agree with you. When I heard that that was a possibility, I was like, I don't love that. Like, I want to kind of see how this fight goes, and then I'd love to see the winner of Kai Kara France and Askarov get in there. So
Yeah, no, I like number one contender fights are a thing. I'm actually watching Figueiredo Moreno 2 in the background right now. So we'll get into all of that. Also, just like hitting conversation while we're actually like doing this, I will just say, you and I exchanged a brief text before we started recording, and I told you I have new favorite people. So I wasn't ignoring you while you were talking. I was sending a message to that favorite person, trying to book trying to start 2022 off right and book the right people to come on the show so I can be. I mean, I know how you feel when you book your favorite people to come on the show. So I didn't want people like, is he typing? Yeah, I was throwing some stuff out there. All right. Well, the other thing about last weekend's UFC Vegas 46 event is Katlyn Chookagian is now a free agent. And you and I don't think I wouldn't call it an argument, but we got a little discussion about Katlyn Chookagian. She's now a free agent after beating Jennifer Maia. And there's so much to this, right? Like, this is a woman, and I'm going to pull up her official record here. This is a woman who is actually known to win by a lot of decisions. And, a lot of casual fans and people who think they know the UFC want to say like, well, they're not going to resign her because Dana and the UFC don't like decision fighters. Well, then I would counteract and told you like, well, they shouldn't like former champions being 1-6 in their last 7 or 1-5 in their last 6 fights. That being of a Cody Garbrandt and a Sam Alvey who hasn't won in who knows how long. So for me, it's you're damned if you do, damned if you don't, right? Like it's not like Katlyn Chookagian is playing with her food. Like, she's going in there and she's competing to the best of her abilities. Now, yeah, you would love to. Every fighter wants a finish. Every fighter wants to get in, get out. But it's a testament to the women that she's fighting that she's unable to finish. She has had finishes in her career. Just first and foremost, what did you think of Katlyn Chookagian picking up another win?
I mean, I thought she was going to win that fight. That's why I put the money on her. So I was happy she won. But, I hate when there's like these, overarching storylines after a fight where it's like, she won. She picked up another win added to her resume. But all we're talking about now is, why didn't the UFC renegotiate before the fight? Like, that's what kind of sucks. No one's talking about the fight itself or her performance. It's all, why was there no negotiation? Is the UFC going to re-sign her? All that. So, it's unfortunate.
We're talking about a girl who's 17-4 in her professional career. Like,
arguably been, the number 1 or 2 contender. Like,
right.
For the large part of her career.
And, her 3 losses since 2018, Jessica I, who was on a little bit of a roll there, and that was a split decision loss. Valentina Shevchenko, who hasn't lost to her, and Jessica Andrade, who, and I'm not going to, I will never call a lucky punch, or I will never call a punch a lucky punch, but the hook to the body on Katlyn Chookagian, beautiful punch by Jessica Andrade. But if you avoid that punch, who knows how that fight goes? Sure. Jessica Andrade is not undefeated. She's not untouchable. So right. I don't really hold this stuff against Katlyn Chookagian, and people are saying, oh, she's going to go to Bellator now. She's going to Bellator now. At some point, when do we just start to credit these fighters with what they're doing? Your name value can only go so far. To me, I thought your name value, and this is going to lead right into UFC 270 talk, but I would think your name should be attached to what have you done for me lately. And if you've beaten Jennifer Maia and Viviana Araujo and Cynthia Calvillo and Antonia Shevchenko in your last 4 out of 5 fights have been wins, this is what you've done for me lately.
No, I completely agree with you. And that's why I was really surprised to hear that the UFC didn't want to renegotiate with her prior to this fight. She's not clueless. Luckily, she did say in her post-fight presser, like, it's usually not a good sign. It doesn't necessarily mean that they're not going to re-sign me. I want to be here. She just has absolutely no leverage in the situation. If it's going to come down to money, maybe they want to keep paying her what they're paying her. Maybe they want to pay her less. but she has absolutely no leverage. So like she said, it's not a great sign. I would love to see her resign because, like I said, she's arguably been that like number 1, 2, 3 girl for the larger part of her career. So it's nice to have her in the division, but it's not looking too good. So I'm curious to see where she's going to land. So hopefully it's the UFC still.
Yeah, and I don't want to call any fighter out and like make it uncomfortable because obviously this is a show where I interview fighters all the time.
Right.
But you can go down the list of people in that division, in any division, and like you could be like, oh, they're still there. Like there's some fighters that just hang around the top 8, top 10, especially on the female side. And you're like, oh, like I haven't even heard from that fighter in a year and a half or in 2 years. And there are certain fighters who, 25, 35, that just kind of hang around. And whether it's a lack of competition or whatever. I mean, the thing with flyweight, you can argue, like if you truly want to argue, if you look at, the back end of the top 15, you've got Casey O'Neill, Macy Barber, Alexa Grasso, Cindy Calvillo, just to name a few. We got Aaron Blanchfield waiting in the wings. Like you have like these younger fighters, but if they're not there yet, what are we doing? Why are we taking out a top 3, top 5 contender just because she wins by decision? It makes no sense to me.
No, I completely agree with you. And that's a situation you kind of see a lot of 25 and 35, not so much 115, where there are a lot of good. I mean, not that these girls at 25 and 35 aren't good. That's not what I'm saying. But it's really super competitive at 115, where, on any given night, someone's your new champion type of deal. There's not a whole lot of movement at 25 and 35, but another quick little side note, I am excited to see the one Miesha Cupcake Tate drop down to 125 and see what she can do down there. Whoa.
Yeah, and you know what? Love the entire thing. As people know, I do write for My MMA News, and if you do a search on the website and just put in Miesha Tate, I think I've written the last 3 to 4 articles just on Miesha. Like I become Miesha's like personal scribe. Like every little thing like that she's talked about. I mean, I loved how she did it. Went on YouTube, contemplated the decision, bantamweight or flyweight, explained it in the moment why she was having this dilemma. Part of it is that her friend Juliana Pena is the bantamweight champion, but then she gets the fight against Lauren Murphy. Great fight, by the way. And when I wrote the article about flyweight, about the dilemma she said she was having between the 2 divisions, and that's her word, not mine. But when I wrote it and I submitted it, I started thinking like, man, I want to write like a bigger piece, like 5 fighters that could welcome Miesha to flyweight. And then like before I even started, working on it, it was like, boom, she got Lauren Murphy. And Lauren Murphy was number 1 for me because it's such a perfect fight. Like Lauren Murphy, for all intents and purposes, she's gone the furthest with Valentina Shevchenko than a lot of recent title challengers have. And she had a big win streak to get her that title fight opportunity. Now, and this is no dig at Miesha, but now Lauren Murphy's also facing, like, if Valentina was the toughest and biggest opportunity of her career, Miesha's 1B. Okay, yeah, I might not get the champion again right now, but if I can beat a former champion, then I'm going to cement my place here at the top of the division, and I'll be right back in title contention. And it's the same thing for Miesha, which is if I go in and beat the last girl to fight for the title, like, hi, I'm a former champion. I just did this. Maybe I even look better than I have, recently. She talked about that, the physical advantages she may have at flyweight. It's a perfect fight.
Oh, 100%. And like I was saying, I mean, 125 and 135, there's not a whole lot of movement. At 125, especially, you have those girls in that like 8, 9, 10 range that you can absolutely think they're going to be in title contention at some point in the future, but they're going to need a couple more before they get in there. You have Miesha Tate coming down, who is a former champion. If she fights and beats Lauren Murphy, who just fought Valentina, like that's a 1-fight path to the title. And she avoids fighting Juliana Pena, who's one of her good friends. Like it's the perfect storm for Miesha. And like she said, she's going to have the physical advantages. She doesn't make a big cut to 35. So I imagine the cut to 25 is going to be just fine for her. She wouldn't have, decided to do this if it wasn't going to be that way. So I'm really excited to see her drop down. And I saw Lauren Murphy actually tweeted today, she signed the bout agreement, and someone tweeted her back with like a cupcake emoji, like question mark. And she tweeted a gif of like a hand crushing a cupcake. So I guess that's all but confirmed now.
I mean, I honestly love it. Like anyone who follows the show, Lauren Murphy's been on this, you know,
I love Lauren.
like she's the greatest. And I've never told her this, but you know, in the lead up to the fight, if I get her on, I'll definitely tell her this. I remember when she fought Valentina, I was out and about for the fight, and people were dogging her the whole fight. And I consider Lauren a friend. So, you know, you're out and about and it's, you know, a fight night, the drinks are flowing, and people are like, this girl stud and all this. And I'm like, Lauren Murphy, my name is Lauren Murphy. Like, she went off on Eddie Alvarez on The Ultimate Fighter, and no one understood it. But like, I made myself laugh, and I was like, all right, well, that's fine. I like looked around to see if anyone knew what I was talking about, and I was like, no.
That's all you have to do. That's what happens like when these people fight that you're friendly with. Like, I've gotten into full brawls over Anthony Smith before. I would get into a full brawl for Miesha Tate. I've gotten into brawls for Justin Gaethje, Calvin Kattar, and we're not friends. Like, right. It doesn't really matter. You just find yourself in these situations and it's happening.
See, like, I don't know about you, and I think anyone who knows me knows, like, I go to like specific spots to watch fights. And recently I've been bouncing around. I'm going to make it known, and quick plug for you know, for local advertisement purposes, if you are in the Chicagoland area, I will be going back to Chasers. Anyone who's followed this show for the years that, you know, I've been doing it, you know, Chasers has kind of been my home for UFC. So if you're looking for a place in the Chicagoland suburbs to go, it is Chasers Sports Bar and Grill. I'll let you guys decide which one you want to go to. I'm not going to reveal which one I will be at. But you guys can go ahead. They have 3 locations in the Chicagoland area. Pick one. But I'm usually there, and people know, like, oh, there's a big UFC fight tonight. Mike's going to be there. And like, if it's someone that I've either had on the show multiple times or someone I consider a friend, I'll let everyone around, and I have my one seat. I'm a little weird. I have a seat for fights, but like, I'll tell people go away. I'm like, yeah, I'll talk to you after this fight. Like, I'll talk. Like, like, I'll talk to you after this fight. Don't. You're not sitting here after this fight. And people just like, then I just get watched like a zoo animal. People like, oh my God, is he okay? Like, is he gonna freak out? But I think you got to do those things, right? Like, it'd probably be easier for like people like me and you to just sit at home. But now when you're telling me I got to pay $75 for a pay-per-view, I'd rather go out and spend 30 to 40 bucks.
No, I completely agree. Like, I love watching the fights at home. I do, just because I can sit, I can hear the commentary team. I can kind of, you know, be everything that I am during a fight, which is not a great look, but in the comfort of my own home. But there is something fun about going out and watching them too. But again, you know, not my best look. So
yeah, it's definitely not my best look either. You know, not beautiful segue here. Not the UFC's best look heading into UFC 270. And currently, as you and I are talking, I've got the UFC 270 press conference, you know, playing in the background. I also find it very weird sometimes that, and I'm not vouching for myself, but some of these people that get allowed into the press conference, like, I'm right here. I'm right here. And like, let me. I don't need a shtick. I don't need to be a schmuck. Like, just let's up the credential game here in 2022. But we've got quite a bit of a storyline, and I know you said, you know, when we were talking, like, hey, I'm not the biggest X's and O's gal. Like, we'll get into all that. But like, for me, I'm just gonna throw it out there right now. When it comes to UFC 270, I think it is literally all about emotion. If you look at the two fights, if you look at the main event and the co-main event, and we'll get into it, but it is all about emotion for me. But 2 things I want to talk about before we give our predictions and talk about the card, because that's what we do here for our pay-per-view preview shows, is let's just get the 2 big elephants out of the room, no pun intended, with it being a heavyweight fight. And that is the Francis Ngannou contract situation. Now, a little kind of biased now, just had Eric Nixick on the show. And when you talk to him about it, you're like, oh, all right, well, like, I get it. Like, all right, whatever you say, coach, like, I'm just listening to you, man. Whatever you throw out there. And he's talking about, it's all about vibe and energy. And, you know, he told the story that he knows when Francis turns into the apex predator. He said before the Rosenstrike fight, I guess Rosenstrike was walking out and Francis was coming down the walkway or the hallway, and they like locked eyes. And this is, you can go back and watch it. It's episode 160. Eric Nixick says, and that motherfucker looked like he knew he bit off a little bit more than he could chew. Like you could tell. And then what happened? 20 seconds later, Francis closes the show. And for me, like I said to Coach Nixick, I would just say this: there's very few people in this world like I don't want to piss off ever, right? And when you talk about a guy who's defied so many odds to get to where he is in his life and his career, Francis Ngannou is like Exhibit A, Your Honor. Like, this is a guy we don't piss off. So now you're dogging him leading up into this fight. I'm not even going to bring in the opposing side to this. I'm just talking from a promotional standpoint, where you're dogging him. You're telling him, we don't know about your contract and you've got bad management and this and that. And then they say, well, you know, if he defends his title, we kind of have to have him for one more fight. It's like, oh, okay. So now what you're saying is prove us wrong and we can't deny you. I'm not exactly sure that that's the thought process I'd want to go into this fight if I was the UFC.
I'm really surprised with the whole way that the UFC handled this, especially being that Francis is your sitting champion, beginning with the interim title fight. That happened far too soon. That should have never happened. We could have seen this fight, Francis Ngannou versus Ciryl Gane, you know, a month after we had seen Ciryl Gane versus Derek Lewis. That fight didn't need to happen. There should be no interim title in play right now. When I talk about this fight, more often than not, I actually forget that Ciryl Gane is your interim champion because it shouldn't be that way. So it's really surprising, but to be honest, I think it's going to be more than anything just added motivation for Francis, because if he wins this fight, like, he has so many different opportunities at his fingertips. So I don't think it's going to be clouding his head too much as far as, like, you know, the contract negotiations weighing heavy on him. I think it's going to be added motivation in a good way.
Yeah, and we'll just break down these fights and then we'll give prediction for the rest of the card. But for me, you know, talking about the other side of this is the storyline, the former teammates and Ciryl Gane, and I saw this tweet earlier. I think it was from Lucas Grandsire. He had the greatest tweet about leading up to this fight. He's got some good ones. Yeah, he said, for those of you wondering, it's not Ciryl Gane. Like,
I seen that.
I was like, I love that. I was like, I'm gonna be saying that now on fight night. Like, no, it's not Ciryl Gane, but does anyone have? Sorry, but former teammates turned rivals. And this may be tipping my hand on how I'm leaning, but like, they've been there, done that. They've been in the training room, and like, shout out to Ariel Helwani, whether you love him or hate him, but I've been thinking this all week. There has not been any bigger conversation than this sparring footage, and no sparring footage has been talked about more than Conor McGregor, Paulie Malignaggi in 2017. Like, this is literally the same thing. Like, okay, and it makes no sense to do the whole. It's like the guy saying is who's the biggest guy in the room. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not going to say that. This is not like a show me contest. Like, what happens in a gym should always stay in a gym. And with that, you have the Ciryl Gane's coach, Francis's former coach, Fernand Lopez, kind of fueling all of this, talking about his broken relationship with Francis, talking about how he knew Ciryl was going to get here, talking about how the sparring footage, and this is something that happened all the time. And it's like, dude, if in my opinion, if your team is making it a point to be in the spotlight, and we're talking about all these narratives that will not matter come Saturday night when we lock the cage door behind you, like, you are probably on the wrong side of this narrative. If your coach is emotional about things, if your coach is on a war path to make your opponent look terrible, I would question as a fighter, coach, what are you focused on? Is this a bitter ex-girlfriend type situation? Like, what are we doing here? So I actually hate it, and I think it's a bad thing for Ciryl Gane.
No, I actually hate it too, and this was something I talked about on Jimmy Smith's show today. When you're looking at this heavyweight main event, fighter to fighter, it seems relatively one-sided beef-wise. Like, Francis Ngannou has responded to what's been put out there as far as sparring footage goes. I know he said in his media day, it might have been yesterday, that he knocked Ciryl Gane out in sparring once with I think a left high kick or something along those lines, he said. But everything on Cyril Gane's end is coming from his head coach. Like when Cyril Gane was asked about the sparring footage, he was very lax about it. He was like, there were days I got the better, there were days Francis got the better. I'm like, that's kind of how sparring goes. He was very nonchalant. No, he didn't seem to have any edge to him in that kind of way. It's all coming from Fernand Lopez, which is very bizarre. And then you have Eric Nixick, who's the polar opposite. Like, so, to himself, focused on that fight, focused on Francis being the best version of Francis Ngannou that he can be come Saturday night. And I think that that's going to put Francis in a great spot to have your coach solely focused on you being the best version of yourself and not focused on any of this outside noise that really, at the end of the day, doesn't matter. But the only two people who were in that gym that really know each other are the two fighters. So what everybody else is saying, what everybody else is seeing doesn't matter. It was also some time ago. So I hate the sparring footage conversation. I think it's ridiculous. It should have never come out. And I mean, it's an added layer though for everyone else to talk about.
But for me, I just hate the coaching narrative the most. I look at next month's pay-per-view and Israel Adesanya and Robert Whittaker, two of the greatest middleweights we've ever seen. And you don't see Eugene Behrman getting all in the way of, this fight. You don't see Robert Whittaker's coaches getting in the middle of this fight. Like you don't, even during his prime of Conor McGregor, John Kavanagh was not getting in the middle of the fight. Like it wasn't John Kavanagh against Khabib Nurmagomedov. It wasn't John Kavanagh against Eddie Alvarez. Like we need to be talking about the growth of Cyril Gane and how there's never been a heavyweight that moves like him, that's as technical as him. Like we're not talking about this. We are.
Cyril Gane's fighting can speak for itself.
Right. Right.
He moves like a middleweight. He's got insane footwork. Like he's that next evolution of heavyweight that we're watching before our eyes. And no one's just letting his fight do the talking. In that countdown, I watched UFC Countdown this time around. Mike asked me to. It seemed like Fernand Lopez actually spoke more than Cyril Gane did himself.
That's a huge red flag for me. Like
right?
big red flag for me. And you know what? With that being said, like we'll get into it here, but like I would say there's very few exceptions to this, right? Where maybe the coaches are going to get involved and talk a little bit more. And the only one that I can really think of is at UFC 272 when it's Jorge Masvidal, Colby Covington. There's no belt on the line. This is it's literally just a grudge match between two former friends, two former teammates. Like we're talking roommates, right? Like we're talking actual roommates. So this narrative is so far different than what Cyril Gane and Francis Ngannou is. Like this is just, I had a fighter. This fighter thought he knew what was best for him, so he moved. He's gone on to do great things. I found this new wave fighter. I've gotten him to this level that we are at. I'm going to meet my old fighter with my new fighter, but it's not about me. It's about my fighter and all he's done. And this is why I like this new guy I'm working with compared to the old guy I'm working with. That's all it should be. Shouldn't be about sparring footage and Francis did me wrong and Francis thought this and he's egotistical. Like, I'm sorry, but there was that one point where Fernand Lopez and UFC Countdown Show said, if I think you're egotistical, I'm going to say you're egotistical. And I was like, cool. I know where I'm going this weekend because now, like, this is all being driven by hatred and energy and vibes. And it's just that play. I said earlier, I think that this card will come down to emotion. You talked about Eric Nixick, and I love that you said this. If I'm looking at the corners, if I'm specifically looking at the corners on Fight Night, looking at Eric Nixick, and it's not just because he was on the show this week, looking at Eric Nixick being cool, calm, collected, the guy who went on social media and told Fernand Lopez, look, you're trying to make this, I think this narrative is getting too much about us, and I'm not here for that. May the best man win, come in the cage, and all the respect to you. Like, I'm going to ride with that corner. Take the names out of it. Take the fighters out of it. I'm always going to ride with the cool, calm, and collected corner than the corner that wants something to, like, they're out to prove something. Like, this isn't about you. This is about the fighter that you're training and coaching and how you got to this point.
Absolutely. That's why I have so much respect for Eric Nixick, because with anything in this world, it's so easy to fight fire with fire. And I'm sure there's plenty of things that Eric could have said, in the build up to this fight that, to combat things that Fernand Lopez has said. He hasn't. His sole focus has been Francis. Like I said, making sure Francis is the best version of himself come Saturday night. And I think that's really important. I agree with you. To be a fighter, I would imagine, and to know that your coach just has your back 100% and their sole focus is making sure you come into fight night being the best version of you. Like, I can't imagine there's anything that can make you more confident, knowing you have a coach that's backing you like that. And that's just what I'm seeing from Eric Nixick. I also think he's great. I like him a lot, but no bias. I like what I'm seeing out of him and his whole team at Extreme Couture leading up to this fight.
I just think, I mean, this sport, the tales of time speak for themselves. When one side of a fight is way more emotional and driven by the wrong things, those corners usually and fighters usually have things go the wrong way.
Right.
It is what it is. I mean, Conor McGregor threw a dolly into a bus and never really stood a chance against Khabib Nurmagomedov. Like, it is what it is. So,
I wonder where that dolly is. Do you think they still use it there?
Like, I would, like, if that was me, like, I
would
in, like,
take
the
it
hard
at home.
ways.
Right?
Yeah. Like, I joke around with my guy friends that, like, I have one very bad warning sign if I ever have a female friend over, and as I have an Antonio Brown bobblehead. So, like, if you know sports and you walk in and it's like if you get, for me, if I go to a girl's house and I see like tarot cards all over the place, I'm like, oh, are you burning sage when I leave here? Like, what is going on? Like, red flag.
Right.
I've got like an Antonio Brown thing here. So it's just like, you know what? Like, this whole thing is just, the narrative is so wrong. Everything about, like, it's just, we should be talking about the most dangerous heavyweight of all time. And how can he what we should be talking about is, how will Francis give the UFC no other option than to re-sign him? Win or lose.
I completely agree. I think we're literally about to see one of the most competitive heavyweight fights of all time, because you have Francis Ngannou, who can knock you out with one punch. But you have Cyril Gane, who, like I said, moves like a middleweight, has amazing footwork. Then you start to think about, if this goes the distance, that usually isn't a great thing for Francis. But then if it does go into that 20, 25-minute range, can Cyril Gane avoid Francis's punch, like his one knockout punch for that long? Like, there's so many different things to think about. I think the way I'm picking has changed 5 times since this fight has been announced. I think I finally have it down pat today.
Well, and I'll say this, and I'm not the most technically sound guy. I am not a guy that we both know very well. I am not Luke Thomas. But when you look at some of the fights that Francis Ngannou was involved in right before he got with Extreme Couture, it was always about, it wasn't so much calculated movement. It was more of a, I'm just going to go, because even if my technique is not there, if my footwork isn't there, or my punches are wild, as long as they land, like, good night, Irene. Like, it is what it is. If I just land, I'm good. And then if you go and if you look at the Stipe Miocic rematch, the one where it was really Team Extreme Couture in his corner when he won the title, Francis was patient. He was throwing left high kicks. He was hitting Stipe, and he knew. And there, I think several times he dropped and knocked Stipe down, or stunned Stipe, that he could have rushed in and closed the show. But he allowed the fight to come to him. And I'll just say this, if Francis Ngannou allows the fight to come to him, which is what I think a cool, calm, and collected corner will have him prepared for, I think he'll be able to close the show. So with that said, before I give any picks, before you give any picks, we'll go to the co-main event. It's the same thing for me, Kelly. It's an emotional fight, and I do not mean this in any disrespectful way. It is hard for this fight to get sold. I think there was a narrative for so long that, when Jose Aldo was champion, if he just spoke a little bit of English, a la Anderson Silva, we could get a little bit more promotion behind this. Brandon Moreno, very emotional. Obviously, first Mexican-born champion in the UFC history. Great story, great energy. Hard to hate the guy. He makes Legos all the time. It's amazing. But Davison Figueiredo, super emotional, super driven by, now he's talking about, the former friendship between Henry Cejudo and Brandon Moreno, and he's going to take his head off. Like, again, just super emotionally driven. And I just don't see it working out for these fighters that are coming into this event super emotional.
What frustrates me about this co-main event is, I'm excited for it, of course, but it just seems like it was put together because there was no other fighter to take this fight against Brandon Moreno, which is pretty unfortunate, because I think a lot of the questions that people had about these two fighters and about this matchup got answered after the second fight. You know what I mean? It was a draw in the first one, and then a lot of people were like, you know what, Figgy gave that fight away in the draw. He's going to come out. He is the guy now at flyweight. He can submit you. He can knock you out. He can do all the things that we need him to do. Brandon Moreno comes out and stuns everybody. Just outdoes him. A lot of people's questions were answered. And now we're getting this trilogy right away. I think Jimmy Smith said it's the fastest trilogy made in UFC history. And like I said, it just seems like because nobody else was available to take the fight, which is unfortunate. But with all that said, I am excited for the fight. I still think that Figgy has a lot to offer. I'm not sure if he underestimated Moreno that last time around. But yeah, I mean, they're both super emotional. Obviously, Brandon Moreno said in the countdown that he feels like he has the weight of Mexico on his shoulders. Figgy obviously wants his belt back. So I'm excited for it. But like you said, I don't think that being super emotional in the fight tends to bode well for anybody, really.
Yeah, and two of the very best, and I'll, again, probably tip my hand here on which way I'm leaning, but I will go out on a crazy limb, crazy hot take coming in right now. If I had sound effects, I'd be playing it. I think in order for the flyweight division to continue to move forward at the best of its capability, Brandon Moreno has to win this fight.
I completely agree with you. If Figgy wins, they're going to make a fourth fight. Then the division's at a standstill. It's like, all right, how many times can you put Brandon Moreno in front of Figueiredo? And how many times can you put Figueiredo in front of Brandon Moreno? All the other guys at flyweight are going to be like, you fucking kidding me? Like, What are we doing? Like, what are we doing?
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. So let's get into some picks here. I'm going to go up and down the entire card because I do want to end the show with a little talk about I guess, former champion, made some headlines this week. But we'll start at the and you know me, I butcher names every once in a while, but I know, and this is no disrespect to the fighters, but I know on paper this isn't the strongest card. This was definitely a card that was built around the two title fights. But the diehards, the people who know this sport, like there's some good matchups, and we're getting good matchups to start the night off. We're getting Jasmine. Oh, God, and I've had her on the podcast, so you would think I know how to say this, but do you want to do it? Let me see if you can do it.
Oh God, Jasmine, Javicius.
Justavicius. There we go. That's the best I got.
Let's
Kay
just
Hansen.
Go with it.
Yeah, we'll call her Double J. I know there is a JJ, but
that's my favorite fighter in the women's division.
Right. But Jasmine 6-1, and former, I believe, Contender Series alum, Kay Hansen. She's been out for quite some time. I think it's a fun fight at 125, and it kind of speaks to the narrative that we were talking about. A lot of young blood in the flyweight division. I'm going to go with Jasmine in this fight. I'm curious where you're going.
So I'm not super familiar with either girl, but I am familiar with Jasmine's PR people, and I do like them a lot. So I'm going to go with Jasmine as well. And that's completely biased just because they're good people. I'm sure Kay's great too, but I don't really know them.
So next fight to start the card, we got Matt Fivola against Gennaro Valdez. Valdez is undefeated in his career. Matt Fivola kind of coming in with the more recognizable name. Who do you got?
I mean, Matt Fivola, definitely. I think 10 of the fighters on this card, and like we said prior to picks, no disrespect, I believe 10 fighters on this card don't have a Wikipedia page.
Yeah. But there is Tapology. I don't know how often
we love Tapology. They really keep going.
Love Tapology. Valdez, also a Contender Series alum last year. A good test against a guy like a Matt Fivola. I am going to go Matt Fivola as well. And we'll keep the Contender Series alums going. We have Vanessa oh my God, I can't. There you go. Against Silvana Gomez Juarez. I'm going to go Vanessa here. I think she's early on in her career. I think this is a good, we were supposed to get this fight last weekend. She's 6-4. So for me, she lost her last fight to JJ Aldridge. And she came up from LFA. So not a Contender Series alum, I believe. Unless she was, she was on Contender Series in 2020. She fought back through the LFA ranks to get an opportunity she had a first round knockout.
Oh, she fought Lupe Godinez? Nice. I like Lupe.
Yeah. So she lost the decision to Lupe Godinez in LFA. She lost to Corey McKenna in Contender Series, but then a first round knockout in 37 seconds got her to step up and face JJ Aldrich. And you know what? Like she has the experience. She's faced the competition, and I think this is a big moment for her. Kind of have to like prove that, hey, I do belong to sit at this table. So I'm taking Vanessa in this fight.
I'm going to take Vanessa as well, just because I know some of the competition that she's faced.
Next, we have a bantamweight fight between Tony Gravely and Stamen Oliveira. Kelly, where are you leaning this?
Again, I'm more familiar with Tony Gravely, so I'm going to have to go with Tony.
Yeah, I'm taking Tony Gravely as well. We've got a very good fight next at 170 pounds. We got Jack Della, Maddalena, and Pete Rodriguez. I am double checking before I say anything. Pete Rodriguez, just interesting note here. Great fighter nickname. Dead Game.
Dead game?
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. That's a good one. He's coming out of Icon Fighting Championships, now known as Jorge Masvidal's Icon Fighting Championships.
Okay.
I believe Jack Della is a Contender Series alum. I like this card putting a bunch of Contender Series alums on it.
Party.
Yeah, Jack Maddalena is coming off a Contender Series. Pete Rodriguez only 4-0, but Jack Della has got a 10-2 record. I am going to go. I believe Jack Della is the favorite here. I'm going to go with the favorite. I'm going to go with Jack Maddalena.
Yeah, I'm all in on Jack Della Maddalena because a bunch of my buddies they have been putting me on Jack Della watch for the entire week. I kid you not. So I would be remiss not to go with him. So Jack Della for me as well.
He's one of those guys, like he may make the early part of this card must-see TV.
Yeah.
And when you face an undefeated opponent, that usually brings out the best in you. Fight I'm really excited for. We got Michael Morales undefeated against Trevin Giles. Trevin Giles has kind of been knocking on the doorstep of being able to show people like he will be a name to talk about. He needs to put it all together. I do think there's a great opportunity for him. And with that being said, I'm going to go with Trevin Giles in this fight.
Just for sake of disagreement, I'm going to go Michael Morales. He's 12-0. So I'm going to say he keeps his O.
And then before we are just a couple fights left on the prelims, we got Ronnie Barcelos against Victor Henry. I will let you go first here.
Barcelos is a huge favorite. I think it would be silly not to go with him. So I'm very much going with Ronnie Barcelos for sure.
Well, I'm going to use your tactic of the last fight because we got to start disagreeing here a little bit.
We got to.
And I'm going to go with Victor Henry in this one.
Perfect.
I know he's obviously the big underdog, but for argument purposes, I'm going to go with Victor Henry. And our featured prelim, which a lot of people are calling for to be on the main card.
The fight I'm most excited for. I actually kid you not. I'm pumped.
We got Ilia Topuria against Charles Air Jourdain. Kelly, since you're most excited for it, I'll let you go first.
I'm all in on Topuria. I think these two guys are so exciting though, and I absolutely loved watching Charles Jourdain in this last fight. He had a little bit of gamesmanship going. I was very into it, but I'm so in on Topuria here. This
isn't just me going against you, but it's these big fights that we hype up between these young, fighters, and
love it.
Where we're all in on one. That sometimes things kind of get shocked, right?
Well, I like Jourdain a lot too. I just am all in on Topuria. You could have put literally Branson Ngannou against him, and I probably would have picked him still.
All right. Well, this is not why he's getting another UFC contract, but sure, we could go with that. No, I'm going to take Charles Jourdain. I think when you're completely written off and literally the only thing you have to do is walk into the cage and fight the person across from you, perfect. I'll take it. No one expects me to win this fight except me and my team and my fans. Ilia Topuria is not to be overlooked. He is one of the very best at 145 pounds. I think we're going to see him. He's going to be a staple in this division. But just you know what, I think these are the fights that's sometimes they're trap fights. People think Topuria is just going to come in and steamroll him, and he very may well do that. But I'm going to take Charles Jourdain on the upset here.
All right.
So we have 5 fights left on our main card here. We've got Rodolfo Vieira against Wellington Thurman. Kelly, your pick.
Was this the fight that was bumped up?
Yes. Yes.
Okay. I'm going to go with Rodolfo Vieira. He's the favorite. Not by a lot, but that's who I'm going to go with.
I believe, yes. So Rodolfo Vieira, his last fight, or excuse me, last year, he lost to Anthony Hernandez. That was when we were giving out awards. That was my submission of the year award. Anthony Hernandez. Fluffy had a huge upset. This is gonna be a hell of a fight. 2 Brazilians. Wellington Thurman, he has more fight experience. Rodolfo Vieira, a jiu-jitsu ace. I see this fight going to the ground, and I see Rodolfo Vieira winning by submission. But it's not going to be easy against a guy like Wellington, who's only 25 years old. So, you know, maybe I'm going to change my pick. I'm going to go Wellington. I'm going to go
A+ for Wellington's chest tat. Like, good stuff. That's what I'm seeing on the
Murphy,
UFC.
big chest tattoo girl.
Honestly, no, but it looks like great work.
Then we have a very fun fight. I know people
Yes.
are looking one way on this fight, but we have Cody Stamen against Syed Nurmagomedov. Kelly.
I really like Cody Stamen, but I feel silly anytime I pick against somebody whose last name is Nurmagomedov. So that is who I'm going with.
Yeah, I'm going to take Syed Nurmagomedov here as well. You got a guy who's really surging out the bantamweight division, and Cody Stamen's going to be a great, tough test for him. But I like Syed Nurmagomedov in this fight. And then I'm just going to go on record and say this fight should not be on the main card. This is not, I mean, listen, he could obviously kill me with one punch, but Michel Pereira against Andre Fiallo. I mean, we know Michel Pereira goes in, he makes a circus show of the fight, and it's all about the theatrics, and it's very Michael Venom Page-esque, minus the results. Michael Venom Page does this thing, but he's also cracking skulls when he's in there. So I think I've made it known already. Andre Fiallo will be my pick in this fight.
I'm going to have to go with Michel Pereira. I like the fireworks he brings. Doesn't always go his way, but I'm into it. So
what are you there for? Are you there for the Sports Center reels? Or are you there to win? Like, again, but you can catch me.
In his fights, I'm there for the highlight.
But you can catch me rooting for Michael Venom Page like 24/7. But again, we're talking about a guy who has one loss on his career and has literally broken skulls, you know, with his antics. So, you know, he'll be fighting for a Bellator title in, I believe, May. All right, co-main event, Kelly, I will let you go first. I'm looking right now on Fight Odds website, and Brandon Moreno seems to be unanimously, he is the favorite all across the board, ranging from anywhere between 170 and minus 200 on some sites. So Brandon Moreno, the favorite heading into the trilogy fight against Deiveson Figueiredo. What do you got?
I am going with Brandon Moreno on this one. Like I said, going into that second fight, I think there were a lot of questions, and I think those questions were answered. Everyone thought Deiveson Figueiredo was going to be that guy in the flyweight division. Brandon Moreno outclassed him that night. I don't know if it was because Figgy didn't take him seriously or whatever it was, but Brandon Moreno showed that he is the best and he's capable of being the best. And as John Anik said on the call, Tijuana, you've got one. And I think Tijuana keeps that one Saturday night.
Yeah, I think there's a few things. One, the emotional side of Deiveson Figueiredo, like, we don't know, but there's also the other side to Deiveson Figueiredo, which is we're doing this on Thursday. We have no idea when we wake up tomorrow morning if Figueiredo's going to step on the scale and make weight. It's been an issue in the past. Yes, Brandon Moreno is very emotional, loves everything. He's been in the spotlight, deservingly so. I think he keeps his title as well. I'm going to throw in a caveat here. How does he get it done?
I'm going to go by submission again. I'll even give you a round.
I love it. What
Round three. Round three
Okay.
submission.
All right, I'll see you at round 3, and I'll one up you, and I'll say round 2 submission for Brandon Moreno.
I wouldn't be mad. I wouldn't be mad.
Now we have our main event, and if I haven't made it clear and obvious, I will go on the record and say this is no friend bias. This is no, podcast guest bias. I've talked to Francis. I've talked to Eric Nixick. I know you have had the opportunity to have these guys and Mark Martin, Francis's agent. Like all of this, it's finally put to rest. Like the crazy thing is, in this UFC 270 main event, it's everyone else around the fight making these other storylines, and it's not the two fighters. And Ciryl Gane may one day be the champion. I felt the same way about Curtis Blades. I don't know so much now for Curtis, now that John Jones is around. But I always felt Francis doesn't stay in the heavyweight division or doesn't stay in the UFC. Like Curtis Blades could be a champion one day. I think he's that damn good, and I still feel that way to an extent. Ciryl Gane may one day become champion. I just don't know if this is it. I don't know if he gets past Stipe Miocic. I don't know if he gets past John Jones. And I'm going to go on my prediction here, and I'm going to say he does not get past Francis Ngannou. I think it'll be a very close fight. I think it'll be a very competitive fight. But I do think one thing. Ciryl Gane has a lot of, if you do the head-to-head, the tail to tape, if you look at the boxes, I think Ciryl Gane checks way more boxes than Francis Ngannou does. But when you talk about an emotional corner, when you talk about a guy who's been there, done that, yeah, dude, you were sparring an undisciplined Francis, a Francis who was still learning MMA. You had the easier road to learn, and your coach took the path of Francis and was able to apply it to you in a different way. And I think Francis has got the perfect team for him, and I think he gets it done. I think he gets it done by knockout.
Yeah, like I said, my pick has changed several times since this fight was announced. I believe on the last podcast we did, I said I was picking Ciryl Gane. And I am now going on record to say that my pick going into fight night, my final pick is Francis Ngannou. I just absolutely love what I'm seeing from Eric Nixick and everybody that's going to be in his corner. That cool, calm, and collected approach, I think, is unbeaten, especially in a title fight that already has that emotion and intensity built into it in and of itself.
Right.
And, Ciryl Gane, like I said, so elusive, moves like a middleweight, great footwork. I just, for some reason, see him getting caught by a Francis Ngannou knockout punch. I just do.
The fact that he's going to be so cool and calm, it just kind of just sets, if this was, I'll say this, if this was a back and forth all week between both sides here and Francis was getting emotional and buying into all of this, the media day said a lot to me, and I'm going to go in here after this episode, or after this show with you, and I'm going to watch the press conference. But from what I've seen in the background, it's not emotional for Francis. Dude, I'm just going to come in there. I'm going to clock in. I'm going to do my job, and I'm going to clock out. So we'll see what happens. But I do like Francis Ngannou to retain. And with that, I like him to re-sign with the UFC and get that boxing clause that he's been calling for. Because if he beats Ciryl Gane, I mean, there's no denying you got to give this guy what he wants. So before I let you go, and I'm trying to hit right on time. I know you don't have much time left, but with a little bit of some big news here as we close up the show. Amanda Nunes, it was announced this week, she's leaving American Top Team. She's going to start her own gym venture. Love it. Couple things I would caution on. One, before we start running with narratives and storylines and this and that and theories behind all this, let's see who her coaches are before we say she's leaving American Top Team for good and blah, 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 blah. This may have been something she's been having in the works for a very long time. She's got the resources to open up her gym. I think it's good on her for doing that. I think it'll open the door for female fighters, for Brazilian fighters. But I would wait to see, who's her coaching staff? Is she bringing in any of the coaches from American Top Team? Will they still work together? I think that's a very real thing. I think you've seen fighters at American Top Team come and go, but still keep some of their, train elsewhere, but also still train with those coaches at American Top Team. So I would say that. And let's not say Juliana Pena ran her out of American Top Team. That's my only thing on that.
No, I completely agree. I mean, when I first saw it, I was a little bit confused because I would imagine what it takes to open up your own gym. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of money. It's a lot of effort. Obviously Amanda's a new mom. She's also a fighter. It seems like a lot. So when I had first seen it, I was a little bit confused. I obviously hope it works out for her, but what I will say is that her loss to Juliana Pena is in no way, shape, or form because she wasn't well coached. The coaches at American Top Team are some of the best, and it didn't seem like she was, the coaching that she was getting that night wasn't great. You know what I mean? She came to the fight in shape, seemed like she was getting sound advice in there. It seemed like more of a mental lapse more than anything. Not to take away from Juliana Pena's win by any means, but that's more of what it seemed like to me. So I hate the people that are kind of running with these storylines. A lot of people were like, oh, well, it's because Kayla Harrison's signing with the UFC. So obviously, Amanda's No, you know what I mean? Like, it came down to it. If Amanda wanted to stay at ATT and Kayla was obviously at ATT and signed with the UFC and they were going to make that fight, they would have made it work. Seems like more than anything, just something that Amanda wanted to do. And I obviously hope it works out for her because she's great.
Yeah, I would caution in this sport, let's not let social media make the storylines. Yeah. Let's let emotional coaches and corners, and let's let them make the storylines and the fighters make the storylines. Like, let's not let the fan conspiracy theories and all the theories on social media make, kind of run with it, right? Like, people, no one was like, oh my God, Misha's dropping down for Juliana Pena. She literally came out and said, like, this is part of the reason why I'm considering moving down. So right. we didn't need the fans to tell us anything and come out with their theory. So I would say before we can really kind of gauge, Amanda's decision to leave American Top Team, let's see her coaching staff. It's an entirely different coaching staff. Let Amanda tell us that she thought she needed new coaches or whatever the case may be. But definitely a little interesting. But Kelly, we did it. I tried to stay right on time. We are 1 for 1 in 2022. We've got a few weeks before UFC 271. That's a very fun card. Then things get a little sketchy. I don't know what the plan is for UFC 272. I know I have it circled on my calendar. Would love to go there. Not exactly sure if going to one of the biggest grudge matches in UFC history, 12 days before my, I'm going to take a deep breath here, 30th birthday is a great idea. But you know what? We'll talk about it when we get there. But Kelly, you can catch Kelly Murphy on Twitter at KMurphy25. You can hear on all channels on Sirius XM's Fight Nation, channel 156, Busted Open Radio, Throwing Down with Renee and Misha, Unlocking the Cage with Jimmy Smith, MMA Today. Am I missing anything?
No, you've memorized my social media handle in every show I work on. It's true dedication for me, Mike Pendleton.
Let's not make it sound like I'm a creeper. Like, let's not.
Not at all. I think, what are you, Mike P3210?
That would be Instagram, but I don't get follows on Instagram. That's fine.
I follow Mike on Instagram, for Christ's sake.
Sometimes I get random likes on Instagram and it just totally makes my entire year.
There we go.
Like, I mean, when you're getting likes from people who you never expected to like your stuff on Instagram, just completely turns your year around. But at MP2310 on Twitter for me. Kelly, I'm sure we will talk before UFC 271, but we did it. We've got our first preview show in the books for 2022. We will talk to you soon. Kelly, thank you so much for all your time and enjoy the fights this weekend.
Thank you for having me. You keep giving me a platform to talk about fights, and I keep taking it. So I'll see you for UFC 271.
I will not oversleep before that show.
Okay. I won't push it back a day. So here we go.
Bye, Kelly.
Bye, Mike.